Hello, and welcome to another episode of my gaming room. So, as you can see by the description, today I'm talking about Bayonetta, our sexy witch lady friend, and a series I've been quite a big part of for a good number of years. Kind of starting all the way back in 2010 with Bayonetta 1 for the 360. Yeah, I remember seeing this back in 360 Gamer, back in the day. 360 Gamer. Really sold on the game. Really sold on the concept of a witch with a gun for each limb, shooting the crap out of angels and summoning demons to eat them. I mean, you can't get much more entertaining than that. The light is not liking Bayonetta. There it is. So, developed by Platinum Games as part of their 5-game deal with Sega. Way back in the annals of history. Platinum Games were originally founded by former members of Clover Studios, who worked under Capcom on games such as God Hand, Okami, Beautiful Joe, and I think there was something else, but I can't exactly remember what it was. They then took that kind of crazy, bombastic energy, founded a new studio with Platinum, who've been around for a hell of a long time now. Consider, I think, at least 3 times as long as Clover ever was, which is nice. And we've got a lot out of it. Specifically, for a lot of people, the more niche Bayonetta series. For other people, it's Nier Automata. If you're into that, for the odd freak out there, it is, well, Star Fox Zero. They weren't all bangers, okay? They weren't all bangers. Not every game Platinum made was great. But Bayonetta was kind of the, I think of the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, of the 5 games released under Sega during that period, probably their biggest. Certainly their most popular. Probably their only longest running series. The other games they worked on included Vanquish, which is a fucking brilliant third-person shooter, which I would brutally kill someone for a sequel for, but that's never going to happen. And we haven't really had any other series from them at all. Like, they worked on Babylon Falls 2 years ago that failed miserably. Dreadful game. Dreadful game. Terrible game. Awful. Like, live service schlock deserved to go down the toilet. They worked on Star Fox Guard, and just nothing quite has reached Bayonetta's level of popularity. So the first game's pretty solid. First game really roped me in. I think it's they've all been sort of produced by Hideki Kamiya, who had quite a strong hand in Devil May Cry. And Bayonetta is nothing if not a spiritual successor to Devil May Cry. So yeah, got the original in 2010. That kind of was my kickstart of love of Platinum. Until recently, I haven't liked a lot of the stuff they've done over the last couple of years, especially when the game's on this list. But yeah, I figured I'd just talk about my time with the franchise. I got this around about the same time I got Darksiders 1. I didn't get into Darksiders 1 as much as I did Bayonetta. I think as the combat flows extremely well in the first game. Extremely well. Story's really solid. Helena Taylor, who was the original voice of Bayonetta, was wonderful. She went crazy. Well, she didn't go crazy, but she lied through her teeth, which we'll get to. Which we will get to. We will get to. But shortly after that, the series didn't... Well, the first game didn't sell super well. Well, the 360 version is probably the best version to play. You could get the newer one, or more accurately, the PS3 version. Sorry. You could get the PS3 version, which did not run at all. It didn't run at all. Terrible. Awful. Awful. So, it fell to Nintendo to come along and go, We need exclusives for our failing Wii U console. Would you mind making 2? So they did. And quite frankly, I don't know why you wouldn't buy the special edition of Bayonetta 2, because it comes with the first game for free, and it was 50 quid. This was 50 quid when it launched, and I was like, I could buy the standard version for 40, or I could spend literally £10 more and get the first game again, but with like a whole host of new stuff on it. And we even got the butt shot that we were denied with the first game because they thought it was a little too lewd for Western audiences. Clearly they didn't know us very well. But Bayonetta 2, easily my favourite one. Easily my favourite game in the entire franchise. Best combat, best Bayonetta design. Because whilst I don't mind her giant-ass beehive like that, the pigtails in 3 are horrible. They are dreadful. They are flat out the ugliest design they could have gone for an adult Bayonetta. I mean, it works when she's younger in like the last game that we got, but the third game, ugly. We'll get to that. We'll get to the third game. Instead, we got short hair Bayonetta, which, yeah, I prefer. Her guns, I don't necessarily. So her guns in the original game that she wore on hands and both legs, as is kind of the gimmick, was called Scarborough Fair. And each gun was called Parsley, Sage, Rosemary and Thyme, after the song by... can't remember. I'm going to say Gilbert and Sullivan, but I don't think that's right. And it's definitely not Siskel and Ebert. But in this one they're called Love is Blue, and I can tell you what each gun is named, and I think that's a bit of a shame. There's also the fact that they're single barrel as opposed to 2 barrel pistols, and then 3 came along and went, oh, let's have another barrel, that'll look terrible. Dreadful game. But 2, considerably better. I still like 1. 1 is still a very, very, very solid experience, but 2 just takes the cake for a whole multitude of reasons. And a big part of that is, well, I think from a boss perspective, it's a lot more entertaining. You're fighting not just heaven this time, you're fighting hell. Because the demons are like, oh, there's some shit going on. let's collect on our witch debt. So, Bayonetta is what's called an Umbran witch. She makes a pact with a demon, or demons, plural, which she can summon in combat, often through like finishing moves. However, that's with the proviso they get to eat the angels that she's killing. If they don't get that, they kill her. So it's a bit of a busy existence for her, if anything. She clearly wouldn't hold down a standard job when angels are blowing up her place of work every 5 minutes. But yeah. 2 went, let's have her fight demons as well. Let's have her fight angels and demons, and it will be really solid, and it will be really a really engaging aspect to the gameplay, because in the first game, just angels, nothing but angels. This version, I think added, so this version added 3 new costumes. It added one for Star Fox, so she has like a little fox tail, and she's wearing like a Fox McCloud's outfit. And each gun, instead of being Scarborough Fair, it's one of the R-Wings. she's holding one of the planes as a gun, and it's cool. I'm a big fan of that. Then you have the Samus armor. I know it's called something else. I think it's something suit. I don't care. But Samus's armor from Metroid, and that has hand cannon. And when you do dash move, you turn into the morph ball from Metroid. I don't know too much about Metroid. I don't like Metroid, so it's not an armor I use particularly much. And then there's the Link. There's the Link outfit, which is surprisingly appropriate considering her big big old beehive hairdo. That is something they continue in the second game, and I'll give you some of her outfits in the second game. It suits her more. But yeah. So Nintendo kind of came along, saved the franchise, went, this is ours now. This is ours. You're not getting this back, anybody. And at the time, people were pissed. People were pissed. They were like, Bayonetta 1 was multi-platform, why can't Bayonetta 2 be multi-platform? Nintendo doesn't do multi-platform. They never have. And, well, apart from, like, the Philips CDI, and that's just through some legal backdoor crap on behalf of Philips so that they could get out of their deal with Sony back in the 90s. And the very few PC games they did back in the 90s with Mario Does Learning. And obviously a lot of their mobile games, which I have played a bit of, if strictly for stuff to buy off of my Nintendo. But they needed exclusive seller system, and I know we're in this weird period where both Sony and PlayStation are like, oh, we're not doing exclusives anymore. And I'm like, cool, then why would I buy your system? Like, if there's no incentive, like, I mean, I only own a PS5 over an Xbox Series X because I got burned really badly with the Xbox One. So, yeah, there was a logic to releasing Bayonetta 2 as an exclusive for the Wii U. They did learn, though, because they added her into Smash. And she even got her own amiibo. She got two. She got two amiibos. She got Bayonetta 1 amiibo and the Bayonetta 2 amiibo, which I don't have, which is stupid because that's my favourite Bayonetta design. Minus the big hair wings. Although, to be fair, she had hair wings with the first one. Not bad. Not bad sculpts. Bayonetta's quite a designed character. She's very heavily detailed in ways that, say, Captain Olimar or Ice Climbers or Kirby or Mario really aren't. So a lot of that detail is kind of missing, which is a bit of a shame. It is on some of it, but not quite. We've only gotten the 2 amiibos, though. We never got one for 3, because 3 lacks amiibo support, which is really stupid. But I think 2 on the Wii U didn't have it. It didn't have amiibo support. But what it did have was a multiplayer mode. So I had a co-op multiplayer mode where you did different like combat scenarios, where you could play as Bayonetta, you could play as the demonic shopkeep Rodan, you could play as Bayonetta's pseudo lover / friend Jean, who's I really like Jean. I really like Jean. Jean is flat out one of my favourite characters in anything. Just because she's kind of cool. She's kind of this long-haired kind of biker lady who, in the second game, her soul gets knocked out and dragged down to hell. Sorry, the light. Gets dragged down to hell and you have to go kind of save her ass. It goes well enough. But, yeah. So, Bayonetta was added to Smash. She was ludicrously overpowered in Smash 4, which a lot of people were really happy with, as I'm sure you can imagine. But that was kind of it for Bayonetta 2, for Bayonetta in general, for about 8 years, if not longer. Until we got the Switch release of Bayonetta 2. Now, fundamentally, kind of the same game. I think that version has touchscreen controls. I don't know if they carried that over in general. And this had only online play. This has local. So if you have a friend who has a copy of this and you both sat in the same room, you can play locally, which is sick. Which is very cool. And I'm a big fan of. But this came with the original Bayonetta as a download code. I bought this used, so I don't have that. They have released the original Bayonetta, like cartridge, which I may get, but it would be my 3rd time owning the same fucking game, so would there be a point? But I don't it all on the same system, so whatever. This one's pretty cool though, because it has amiibo compatibility. So, depending on the amiibo you use, be it say you use a Mario one, you would get a Mario. So, I believe I used Bowser Jr. That was it. I used the Bowser Jr. amiibo with this, and unlocked the Chain Chomp weapon. So, she attaches a chain chomp to her legs that barks at enemies, and you slam it into them, and it bites, and it's a lot of fun. I quite like that. I quite like that weapon. It's just really entertaining. Really, really, really entertaining. It's genuinely really good. Or if you use the Link one, I think you unlock the Link armor. Yeah, it's kind of stuff like that. The big thing about it, though, is you can use up to 32. You can use 32 amiibos in a day to kind of get a lot of the in-game currency, in-game items, all of that kind of shit. And I'm super tempted to just spend a week where I turn on the Switch, plug in Bayonetta 2, and just tap like crazy. Probably after work for a good, 20 minutes. It will take 20 minutes with all the amiibo I have. Which is fine. And, yeah. Because there are other alternative characters to unlock in the multiplayer. You can try and play through the mode. So you get, like, different versus cards. And each of those versus cards is just kind of a combat scenario you can do in co-op. Or you can do you can do it by yourself. If you do it by yourself, well, you just have like a AI-controlled friend or combatant who may be controlling another Bayonetta or Jean or whatever, who will do that combat scenario with you. Or you can use a lot of the in-game currency. I'm talking like millions, which is why it'd probably take 5 days to unlock one. But I think it would be really good. I think it'd be really good because there's a character in the second game called the Masked Lumen, who I won't go into too many spoilers about, who is a lot of fun. He looks like a lot of fun to play. He was supposed to have his own stages in the main game. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. So instead, he's just restricted to this versus mode, which I feel if I had him as an unlocked character, I'd probably play considerably more. I'd play it way more. I just would. Which is fine. Then, 8 years. 8 years. 8 years. 8 fucking years. 8 fucking years later, after this game had been announced, we got Bayonetta 3. Which, I finished this last week. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say it is the single worst Bayonetta game of the 3, from a story perspective. So, Bayonetta 3, and this is just full-blown, I'm not going to spoil 2. Go play 1, go play 2, fuck 3. 3 goes, hey, you know that really interesting concept of a witch that fights angels and then, potentially occasionally fights demons, and there's this whole thing about the entire cosmology of the universe? Yes, she's fighting AI. She's fighting AI, and it's a multiverse story. Look, I have a couple of degrees in writing, and one of my golden rules of writing is if you have to introduce time travel into your story, you have run out of ideas. I have a new one. If you introduce a multiverse, you're creating, you are effectively committing creative seppuku. You are stabbing yourself in the stomach, ripping out your intestines and going, look, I have no ideas left. I have run out. And quite frankly, it's a miserable game. From a story perspective. It's a miserable game. And I'll tell you why. Bayonetta dies at the end. Luca, her bumbling, idiotic companion, dies at the end. Jean dies at the end, which... I'm not happy about that last one. I'm really not happy about that last one. I fucking love Jean, so for her to just kind of get killed completely out of nowhere is bullshit. There's also the fact that Bayonetta 3 decides to go, hey, we're going to do that thing where we take the characters you really like, we're going to kill them, and we're going to replace them with a considerably worse protagonist. I call it Rey Fever from Star Wars. It's like, oh, it's Rey Skywalker. No, she's not a Skywalker. She is a piece of shit. And unfortunately, Bayonetta 3 introduces Bayonetta's daughter, Viola, who has as much charisma as a wet tea towel. And quite frankly, is miserable to play. She's really limited in her combat options. Pretty much most of her combat options you could sum up as has a sword, summons a big cat. That's it. She has no other real gameplay features of any kind. In comparison to Bayonetta, who has, I don't know, how many was it? About a dozen or so weapons. And each of those dozen, and then let's get into the combat. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say Bayonetta 3, and this is the only positive, has the best combat. With an asterisk next to it. So, as far as I'm concerned, the ability to summon these demons in combat is cool. It adds probably my favourite demon in the entire franchise, which is a giant stationary clock tower just full of guns and slowing down time mechanics, and it can chew things with teeth, and it's got a giant demonic eye, and it's just cool. It's very, very cool. Easily my favourite demon in the entire franchise, which is saying something because there's a lot of them. I think the only one that really comes close is probably maybe the Kraken, maybe the Colossal Stingray, maybe that bitch you fight in 2. Actually, I quite like fighting that bitch in 2. Unfortunately, oh no, the train. There we go. The train and the clock tower. Awesome demons. Very cool. Cool in concept, cool in execution, and just wonderful. Absolutely adore it. 3 has extremely good weaponry. So you have a kind of a scythe and a top hat for one of them, and you can absorb attacks through the top hat and jettison it back, and it's kind of a weird bat demon that's attached to that particular weapon. You've got one that is literally that train demon I mentioned, but put into a giant sword that's bigger than Bayonetta herself, and it's got like crap loads of buzzsaws on it that you just slice your enemy. That was probably the one I used the most. Then you've got one attached to a Kraken demon who has it's an anchor. It's an anchor, which is just so much fun. And playing as Bayonetta in 3 is fun. Once you ignore the fact that she's got a horrible design. Like, what is that? Oh, let's give her pigtails. I can't take her seriously. And nor will I take her seriously. Instead, I didn't. So I the second I could, I changed out her outfit. Because she looked like crap. And I hated it. I still hate that design. I think it's ugly. It's an ugly design for a character who had 2 previous very good designs. The short-haired design looks fantastic, and the beehive. It just kind of goes to show that a ridiculous hairstyle like a beehive can work on a character like Bayonetta. It's just pigtails? Really? Like, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't mind if they were like thinner pigtails, but each one is as thick as her arm. It looks stupid, and that's kind of what makes Bayonetta 3 such a difficult game for me to like. I love playing as Bayonetta. I think a lot of the stages are actually a hell of a lot of fun when playing as her, but the enemies are boring. Like, in comparison to, say, angels and demons that have a personality, you're fighting AI drones who don't. They don't have any personality, and I hate fighting them. They're the most boring, irritating, shit characters to fight against. They've got no personality. The main antagonist is boring and shitty, and his whole plan is, I'm going to merge the multiverse into one. Fuck off. And then it's mandated that Bayonetta and Luca will always end up together, ignoring the fact she had way more chemistry with Jean. And quite frankly, whilst I'm not fully on board with, push this particular... I don't know. Of pushing any romantic relationship, especially on a character who quite frankly doesn't need it. She's not defined by a relationship. It would be nice to have one where she's got considerably more charisma, or more accurately, she's got considerably more chemistry with. Don't get me wrong, I think Luca's a fantastic joke character. He makes me laugh pretty much every single time he's on screen, but it would be nice for Bayonetta to have an equal person in the relationship, someone who's on her kind of level, I suppose. But no. Instead, it's forced upon us that, they're, destined by fate, which is another one of my least favourite stories. Prophecies are boring. Adding time travel to your story, you've run out of ideas. Adding a multiverse, you're committing creative seppuku. End of story. That's it. And I think that's a shame. Because we're left now, at the end of this trilogy, with the main character dead, her crap daughter taking up the mantle in, quite frankly, a way I don't want to play. If Bayonetta 4 has Viola in it, I probably won't play it. That's saying something. I think 3 is dreadful in its story aspects. The Bayonetta sections are really good. The Viola sections are awful, and I hate them. And then you've got the 4 Jean sections. So, again, I really like Jean. I like playing as Jean when you get the option, because she does actually play quite differently to Bayonetta in the previous games. If you unlock her slow down bullet time mode doesn't trigger as easily. So it actually makes her more difficult to play, but I like that. Like, she's very similar to Bayonetta in that capacity, but in the third game they went, hey, who likes side-scrolling stealth? Side-scrolling stealth in a Bayonetta game. Along with a crapload of bullet time mechanics in... Just... No. No. Like, sure, the game has... Bayonetta 3 has loads of different gameplay styles. It's got a side-scrolling kaiju fight, which is slow and monotonous and not fun. It's got bullet time sections that I think are fucking dreadful. It's got side-scrolling... stealth sections with Jean, a witch on par with Bayonetta who can kill God. Just... no. Absolutely not. And... quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, 3 can fall off a cliff and die. No amiibo support, no multiplayer, no nothing. It's like they went along to 2 and went, we're going to give you good weapons and good summons. Oh, and we're going to rip out a good story. We're going to bastardize the main character, and we're going to introduce her really incompetent, really irritating daughter. Yay, fantastic. It's a shame, because especially with the controversy around Helena Taylor leaving, being replaced with Jennifer Hale. I think Jennifer Hale does a really good job with Bayonetta in this particular game. It's just... Helena Taylor came out and went, ooh, Platinum only offered me $4,000 to play Bayonetta for an entire game, which is bollocks. But if that were true, that's bollocks on their part. How dare they offer something so low? They offered her $15,000 for 5 sessions of maybe 2 hours apiece. 20 hours work, $15,000. Yeah, big fucking liar. And she admitted to it. So, bye Helena. Good luck in theatre. Last year, however, we did get a prequel. We got the Bayonetta Origins. Cereza and the Lost Demon. Which is one of those games that is very hard to define. In that it's very similar to Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. So, Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, you have the controller. And one thumbstick controls one brother, one thumbstick controls the other. That is the same here. However, in this it's control young Bayonetta, who is not skilled in combat at all by this point, because I think she's like 11. And then Control Cheshire, who is Viola's demon from 3. Massive demonic cat, who possesses her doll, which I will show off in a minute. Yeah, it's okay. But it lacks two things that I think would set it apart. Of the two games we got, I prefer that. I think that's much better. Its story's better, its characters are better, its art style's really nice. It's very soft and pastel-y, but yeah, it's a solid game. Where's the co-op? Like, there's no built-in co-op. Like, the whole game is 2 players. The whole game is 2 characters. Every single time. No co-op. You can do co-op. Either you just hold one side of the controller each, which is borderline impossible, or use the Joy-Cons. My wife and I are going to be playing through Bayonetta Origins eventually. That would be nice. Because I got to a bit where I couldn't quite coordinate Bayonetta and Cheshire at the same time, and it just... Yeah. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to put it on the shelf, and I'm not going to think about it again. Then I read online you can just use Joy-Cons, and I think that will be a better experience. This game is good, and its story's good, and its characters are good, and it's got Jean in it again, which is fantastic. But there we go. It's a shame that we got stuck with such a crap ending to the trilogy when we could have had more. There's more they could have built off of in 2. Like, we had I think in the first game we killed the god of kind of paradise, or paradiso, which is heaven. You kill the god of sort of. You both kill him and force him to retire in the second game. That's the god of the human realm. Or, I think that's just called Purgatorio, or something like that. Earth. World of Chaos. So naturally, third game could lend itself quite well in a storytelling perspective of, oh, the demons, with the only god left, have gone a bit uppity. They're now going, we could invade heaven. So they try it. And they're like, oh, we've got the only... we've got Queen Sheba, because Queen Sheba is the head of the, as far as I'm aware, head of the demons. So it would have been nice to see that, really grow that heaven versus hell conflict. Heaven is trying to reclaim, maybe they see a power vacuum. They're like, oh, the god of the human realm is gone. We need to assert our dominance. We need to, rebuild after the first game and after losing God. Not good. We need to rebuild in that capacity. Only for hell to burst out of the ground and be like, no, fuck you. We don't get that. We don't get that. And it would have been a really... Even if you kill Bayonetta off at the end, it would have been a real solid way to end this trilogy. Instead, there's an AI, and it's destroying the multiverse. Fuck off. Dreadful. Whole premise is crap. Characters are crap. Viola's crap. Gameplay's crap. What they did with Jean was crap. What they did with Bayonetta and Luca was crap. Miserable fucking game. Considerably better. Way better. Play that. So, bit of a sour note for the trilogy to end on. Bit of a good game to actually come out of Platinum for the Bayonetta series, which is good. And if we get more Bayonetta in the future, which we better do, and it better not be Viola, I would buy it. But I don't know if I could honestly say that I would nowadays. So I've got a couple bits that I bought a while ago to show off quickly. We've got a little keychain that is moving considerably. That is Bayonetta's kind of watch that she wears on her person there. That's kind of the heart of a witch, or heart of an Umbran witch. It's effectively symbolic of her pact with the demon. If it breaks, she gets dragged to hell. It's kind of what gives her long life, that kind of shit. Pretty cool. It's just kind of solid plastic. It's not really anything particularly exciting. However, for Bayonetta... So, these items were all promoting something called Bayonetta Bloody Fate. Bayonetta Bloody Fate was an anime. It was an anime adaptation of the first game's story. Little bit, played with. I watched it maybe 10 years ago, and I haven't watched it since. It's fine. It's kind of off that era. It's similar. It's along similar lines to, say, the Dante's Inferno animation that got made, or the Dead Space one that got made. It was kind of like, oh, let's make an anime adaptation of something, and it's fine. We even got the plush of Cheshire from considerably before this game. So in the original Bayonetta 1, you kind of come into contact with the younger version of Bayonetta, who's holding this, and I don't know, I just liked it. These were all kind of part of a bundle, and I thought this would be pretty cool to own. He's squishy. With his dumb tuft. Not bad, mate. Not badly made, either. Still umming and ahhing about keeping the tag on, but we'll see. Now, this last item is probably my favourite. These are all by Funko, by the way. I think this was before they really kicked off with, like, Funko Pops. This was just what they were doing. That is a full set of Scarborough Fair, which is just very cool. Very, very, very cool. I love Scarborough Fair. It's one of my favourite gun sets in fiction. You've got Parsley. The wrong way round. Naughty. Parsley, sage, thyme, and rosemary. And we all know it's parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme if you know the song. Can I get you out of here without breaking the blood with it? Yeah, I can. So these aren't really anything special. They're just kind of little plastic guns. That's all. They're not bad. This is actually my first time opening it, so you have to bear with me. Get off. Here we go. That is thyme. That is thyme. Yeah, they're not bad. Rosemary. Get back in there properly. Parsley, which is green, fitting. And sage. So, yeah, Bayonetta wears one of these per limb. And yeah, it's pretty good. So, that's it. That's my Bayonetta collection. And unfortunately, my thoughts on both the state of the series and my kind of hopes for the future. I'm hoping we get another Bayonetta game just with Bayonetta. I don't want to see Viola again unless she comes in and she's got some actually interesting gameplay. I wouldn't mind a daughter-mother kind of game of the two of them. That would be pretty cool. And hopefully we'll get another decent set of guns, because whilst Love is Blue is cool, I think it's Around the World is her set in this, and they're triple-barreled, and they're ugly, and they're purple, and they just look like crap. But yeah, that's it. That is it, guys. That is it for another week. That is Bayonetta, and that is me signing off.